Hello, hello, hello. Good to see you. You get glitter stitches and I get glitter stitches and our projects get glitter stitches. So today, go get your projects so that we can knit along. Today is Ask a Knitting Fairy Godmother. And today we're going to talk about knitting in the round. I have a couple things to show you. I want to start by showing you what it's like to learn from me in a virtual way. So you can see that I'm looking at you on camera and we're connecting, and I really like to use props because props make things more fun. Sometimes you need a little encouragement, so we cheer each other on. I make lots of jokes like, put a fork in it, it's done. So you'll see the fork come back. We also share bright ideas. This is a knitting technique, which is something else that I'll be sharing with you, one of my favorite knitting techniques. So you can see that I have props, and props help me to teach and props help you to learn, and it's a little bit lighthearted. Another thing that I think is important is that you can hear me well, so I wear a microphone, and that you can see what I'm doing. So you can see I have a knit cam. And I like to think of the knit cam like when you're watching sports on television. So have you ever watched an ice hockey game on TV versus in person? And you notice how on the television you can see a lot more of what's going on because the camera is moving and zooming and tracking all of the action. If you're there in person, it's harder to see. It just looks like skaters going across the ice and you can't really see what's happening. So I like to use the knit cam. You can see what I'm talking about. You can see my tools. You can see where I put my hands. And that helps to be really clear. So if that sounds like fun to you and you want to learn more about knitting, I would love for you to join me. I have two options right now. We have Learn to Knit and the Knitting Circle Society. Some of what we're doing in the Knitting Circle Society is stuff I'm talking about today. So let's get started. I wanted to talk about knitting in the round because there's a couple different ways that we refer to knitting in the round. This example is an example of knitting in the round flat because we start in the middle and then we work our way out. I'm actually wearing another example of knitting in the round flat, and I'll show you. This is a circled vest. You can see that we start in the round in the gray, and then I knit in the circle, building and getting bigger. So this is a garnet example of what this technique you can make. I like to use the double pointed needles because it's the oldest technology for knitting in the round. You can see on these needles that there are two ends. There's one end and two ends, double pointed needles. The double pointed needles come in a set of 5, and we'll learn how to use all 5. But you might not be comfortable using needles like this. So I like to develop foundation skills. And that helps because then you are experiencing one new thing at a time and then building on each of those skills. The first thing that you should try is using double points to knit flat. So if you're knitting flat, then you're learning how to handle the double pointed needles, how to manipulate them, how to keep your stitches in the middle so that you don't slide your work off of the needle. Then to level up, I like to start knitting in the round flat. And that's when we get used to using more than 2 needles. We're keeping the project simple, but learning how to use the needles. So the stitch pattern is simple, it builds on itself, and you're really learning how to manipulate the 5 needles at one time. Then after we have some experience and competency knitting in the round flat, then we can move to knitting in the round on a 3-dimensional object. So think about things you've seen that are in the round. The easiest example is a hat. So not only are we now knitting in the round, but we're creating 3-dimensional shapes. This particular hat combines knit stitches and purl stitches. We have ribbing at the bottom, some design elements, and then the top includes the crown shaping and decreases. So everything that we've done up until this point, we've practiced double points, then we've practiced knitting in the round flat, and then we're going to try knitting a hat. And every step is just one little nibble of a new skill that you get to practice and get comfortable with before we level up and try the next thing. That's how I like to teach online. And if you have any questions about Ask a Knitting Fairy Godmother, comment below and I'll answer your question next week on Sunday. Until then, keep knitting. Bye.